Hey everyone, it's Chris here. Today I'm going to talk about a range of options for food that you take on your hikes. Alright, so there are so many different options for food that you can take with you on hikes. Typically when you're doing just day hikes, it's going to be pretty simple. You're probably just going to need to pack a lunch and some snacks, and that's really it. When you're going to be doing overnight or multi-day hikes though, you need to be thinking more carefully about all of the food that you're going to take, because if you're going to be out for say 3 days or 5 days or maybe even a week, you're going to need to have a lot more food with you to be able to last you that whole time. And you need to try and be as efficient as you can with the weight of all of that food, because once you're talking about multi-days like that, your food weight really starts to add up. And you also want to make sure you've got a good balance between the weight of the food you're carrying and the nutritional value that it has. You're going to be burning through a lot of calories when you're hiking all day. So you want to make sure that you're fueling your body with the right amount of nutrition throughout the day. So there are so many different options you can take for your food. What I'm going to talk about today is just what I typically take on most of my multi-day hikes, and I'll go through each of breakfast, lunch, dinner, and also the snacks that I take. Alright, so let's first talk about breakfast. So breakfast for me is usually pretty simple, and I usually go for either one of two meals in the morning. The first of those is usually just rolled oats that I make into porridge, so just these little sachets, and I typically will have two of those. One of them is a little bit light for me, so I'll just take two of them. And what I normally do with that as well is I just add some fruit to it. So these are just like little freeze-dried blueberries, and they're really lightweight, but add a really nice bit of flavour into it. So either those, or I'll cut up some other dried fruit like these apples, for example, dried apples or dried apricots. Just adds a really nice bit of flavour to the porridge. The other one that I'll normally have in the morning, if I'm not having hot food, is I'll just put some oats or muesli into a Ziploc bag like this, and basically just have that out of the bag. So I'll just add some powdered milk into that as well, and again I'll usually add some additional dried fruit into that just for some extra flavour, and normally I'll just eat that straight out of the bag. It's just really simple to do that. So that's if I'm having a cold breakfast. And also I like to have a coffee or a tea in the morning. So coffee for me, normally I'll just take these little sachets of coffee that are sort of pre-made up with the milk powder and stuff in them. Not the sort of coffee I would probably drink at home, but they're lightweight and just, easy to carry, so those usually do pretty well. One of the friends that I hike with actually has his own coffee press, which he normally brings with him on hikes, and that coffee is really good, so he just makes up coffee shots out of that. I've thought about doing that as well because it's a really good coffee, so it's probably a bit of a luxury item. It is a little bit heavy, but certainly worth considering. And then the other thing is just some tea bags as well. I drink both coffee and tea, and this might be in the evening as well that I might have one, but depending what I'm feeling like, either a coffee or tea, just a few bags in a Ziploc bag, and that is pretty much my breakfast. Next, I'll talk about lunches. So again, lunch is usually pretty simple for me. I just like to have something that's pretty easy to make up and just simple in the middle of the day. So what I'll normally do for lunches is I'll have either a tortilla or mountain bread or some rice crackers, and inside of that I'll have something like tuna. So something like these are really good. They're just like a single serve size. I think they're about 75 grams, and obviously a lot of protein in them. And along with that, I'll normally put either some beans or chickpeas that are in these little packets as well. So that's just a nice combination. And depending on the length of hike I'm doing, I'll also maybe just cut up some either raw capsicum or even take snow peas with me, and I'll just put that inside for a little bit of fresh veggies in there, which is really nice as well. So that's really it for my lunches. That's what I normally take. Sometimes I will take things like salami and some cheese, just for something a bit different. But yeah, that's pretty much my typical lunch that I have. And now on to dinners. This is where there's probably a little bit more variety in what you can have. And there's a few different things that I usually do here. So one of the obvious choices that a lot of people will go for is freeze-dried meals. And in Australia and New Zealand, you're typically looking at 3 main different brands of those. So the typical ones you'll see are the Outdoor Gourmet Company, Backcountry Cuisine, and also Campers Pantry. These 2 are actually made in New Zealand, and Campers Pantry is actually a Tasmanian company. Now, there's a whole range of different meals that you can get in these ones. It's just a bit of trial and error to find out which ones you like. But the good thing about these is, of course, that they're lightweight because they've been freeze-dried, so not a lot of weight in your pack. And once they're actually rehydrated, they're actually really filling and pretty tasty as well on the whole. There are typically 2 sizes in the freeze-dried meals. You can either get a single serve or a double serve. For me, I prefer to go for the double serve ones, and that's usually just because I'm so hungry at the end of a day's hiking, and I do find the double serves to be pretty filling, but I find often that the single serve ones just aren't quite enough for what I like to eat. So normally I'll go for those doubles. These 2 here, both are double serve ones. In the Campers Pantry, they are mainly only single serve, although I've seen that they have started to release double serve ones as well. The only thing with Campers Pantry is that they're really expensive compared to these 2. These ones for a double serve are normally about $15 or $16, so even so, that's still pretty expensive. Campers Pantry for a single serve is actually about the same price, and I've seen their double serve ones for something like $26, which is really expensive. I don't think I'd go and spend that much money on a freeze-dried meal, to be honest. The great thing about it, obviously, as I said before, is that they're just lightweight, and you don't really have to even think about it. At the end of the day, when you're really tired, you can just kind of boil your water, put that in, seal the bag up, let it sit for 10 minutes or whatever, and then you've kind of got a dinner ready to go. So that's a pretty good option. In the freeze-dried meal range, there are also desserts that you can get, and there's a few different ones. I've tried a few of them, and most of them I don't really find to be that good. I'm not really big on desserts anyway, but if I have a single serve dinner, then I might just have a dessert along with that as well. And one of the ones that I found is really good is this one, which is the apple pie from the Backcountry Cuisine guys. That's actually really good and worth trying. So that's something else that's an option as well as part of a dinner. Outside of the freeze-dried meals, there are also some other options which I wouldn't usually take on a longer hike because of the weight, but I have actually got this one to try, and I haven't tried these yet, but these are from a company called Go Native in New Zealand, and they're actually pre-made meals. This one's a butter chicken, so I just recently ordered that one just to try it out and see what it's like. It is heavier because it's just not dehydrated, so that's about 250 grams. I would probably only take that on something like an overnight hike where I don't have to take as much food. So I think I'll probably take that out on my next overnight hike and just see what that's like. Essentially, you just put that into some boiling water for a couple of minutes, just in the packaging, and then it's kind of ready to eat from there. So as I've just said, those freeze-dried meals can be pretty expensive. So if you're doing longer hikes and you're going to be having that for dinner every day, that's going to become pretty expensive pretty quickly. So I like to look at some other options as well. And one of the dinner combinations that I've really liked having is actually some little packets of couscous, and there's a few different options in these ones. These are, Moroccan medley. So it's just got sort of a bunch of different flavours in it. You can get a few different types of these. That's about 100 grams and makes up a really good amount of couscous. And then usually with that, I'll have some either tuna or salmon. That can kind of be interchangeable. And with that as well, I'll as I was saying, I had beans for my lunches. I'll put some beans in that as well, or chickpeas. And those three things together actually make a really good sized meal and just, yeah, really fill you up. So that's a pretty good combination that I kind of like to have as another option. One thing I really like having for a dinner out on hikes, more so when it's cold weather, is just some soup. And I usually just take the little sachets of soup. They actually taste really good when you're out on hikes. And as I said, when it's cold, it's just a really nice thing to have when you're first kind of getting dinner ready.
Cheers.
And then obviously in between meals, you want to be snacking throughout the day just to keep your energy up. And there is just a huge range of options that you could look at here for the different types of snacks that you take on your hikes. I've just got a few different things here that I would normally take, but there's others that I would take as well outside of these things. So things like energy bars, and I'll typically have things like Cliff bars. There's a whole bunch of different types you can get, and they're just really dense and, you know, give you a fair bit of energy just from a pretty compact little snack. People can get sick of those if they have them too much, but I find them pretty good. Particularly these ones that are like peanut butter filled. That's just really good. So Cliff bars. Other thing is like little protein balls. They are, again, nice and dense and just, you know, really good little burst of energy. So I'll usually take a few of those. And then the obvious one is trail mix. Now that's just an example of one that you can buy pre-made up. I sort of like to actually make up my own trail mix, and that's just with a whole lot of different things like nuts and dried fruit. Sometimes a little bit of maybe, you know, white chocolate in there or something, just for a bit of extra flavour. So making up a bag of trail mix, it's just really good to have handy as you're hiking along. Apart from the snacks that I've just talked about, there's a whole range of different options that you could take as well. And that's like different types of muesli bars. You could take beef jerky, different types of dried fruit. There's a whole range of different things you could look at. Really just depends on what you like to snack on. So there you go. There's a range of the food options that I take out with me typically on my hikes. There are so many different types of food that you could take out with you on hikes depending on what your preferences are and whether you've got certain dietary requirements. One of the things I really like about being out on hikes is seeing all of the different types of foods that different people take with them on their hikes. And it gives you ideas about different things that you could consider for your next hikes. So leave a comment down below about some of the foods you take on your hikes, which I might not have talked about here. I hope you guys liked this video and found it useful. If you did, hit the like button. And if you haven't had a chance to subscribe to my channel yet, hit the subscribe button. And I will see you out on the trail next time.